Hello everyone and welcome to Talking Business with me, Danny Pardo. On this episode I'm chatting with James Merry and we'll be discussing his career journey through the world of acting, looking at his work with commercials, education, children's television and a whole lot more, as well as his current project working with education to give back to schools and colleges and universities around the country as well. So here we go, without further ado, let's talk business with James. Hello everyone and welcome to Talking Business with me, Danny Pardo. We are here with James today. Hello James, how you doing over there?
Hi, thanks for asking me on.
Oh, thanks very much for joining me, really appreciate it. So we're going to be talking business with you today, but before we get too much stuck in, I guess we better find out. You are James Merry, correct, still?
That is right, yes.
Awesome, good. I'm glad we got that sorted up, so I'm with the right person. And so who is James Merry then? Who are you?
Okay, so I am a professional actor. I'm originally from the Midlands, from Birmingham. That's my home turf. I now live down south, which you kind of generally have to in the business of acting. A lot of it is quite London-centric. But no, yeah, I'm a professional actor. I live in Guildford, Surrey, just outside London. I've got two little boys now. And when I say a professional actor, I'd like to say jobbing actor. That's my job, a jobbing actor. So I'm not particularly super famous. I've done a couple of things that especially kids might recognize me from. But yeah, I pretend to be other people for a living.
Oh, and you get paid for it as well. So what a strange little job you got going on there. Is jobbing actor a common phrase? Is that just a phrase I haven't heard because I'm not in the industry?
Yeah, jobbing actor. So, you know, you get actors who maybe think that they specialize in theatre or will only do so. It's my living. It's how I support myself and my family. So if a job comes along, whether it's stage, screen, film, I do a lot of role play training as well, which a lot of people might not be familiar with, but a lot of actors get employed for face-to-face training, like with medical professions, corporate professions. So yeah, I do that. So jobbing actor is an industry term, I guess. I'm sorry, I should have explained it.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, just
and the role play actor thing is really
an actor
interesting
who does
as well.
yeah, just an actor who does bits and bobs of everything.
Yeah, awesome. So I think then this next question might take up a bit of time because I'm going to ask you a little bit about your career journey. So our paths crossed around about 10, 11 years ago for a couple of times with some work where you came into where I work. But I want to take you back before then, if your memory serves you well, to when you're that 17, 18-year-old James. And what was the dream for you then? So did you go to college? Did you do university? What was the, in 20 years, I am going to be a, what was you back in when you were 17, 18?
Okay, so 17, 18, I was doing A-levels. I went to a state grammar in North Birmingham in Sutton Coldfield. It's called Bishop Beazie. Very, very academic school. And I always, if I'm really honest, I always struggled. I managed to tread water and hold my own. But in that kind of environment, there was some real brain boxes. I remember I just about scraped into the sixth form to do A-levels, but I wanted to stay there because my friends were there. I knew I wanted to get A-levels behind me. And the school at that time, fortunately, things have changed now, offered no drama or performing provision whatsoever. So all of the acting that I did throughout my teenage years was outside of school. Something called, Midlands Television used to be called Central Television, and then it became Carlton Television, based on Broad Street in town. Then it moved to Gas Street, and they used to offer something called the Television Workshop. So the Television Workshop was something you auditioned for. The wonderful thing about it, it was non-fee paying. It was all talent-based, and kids used to come from all over the Midlands. It was funded by ITV, by Central or Carlton as it became. And you do these weekly sessions in stage and screen acting. And it also served as a talent pool for CITV. So when Children's ITV wanted to cast children in their shows and things like that, they used to come to the workshop. And some really big names came out of workshop. So that's where I did the majority of my acting as a teenager. So 17, 18, I was studying A-levels in law, government and politics, English literature and general studies.
Right. Okay.
And
Yeah. What am I supposed to
got
do with that information now? I'm like, well, now what do I ask him? Like, that doesn't match at all. Yeah. So, I mean, so without that external workshop that was available to you then, there's nothing really for you, and then your life completely changes. So that must have took a lot of effort on your part to be that age and then go and do that as well. Was that a real conscious decision? Were you giving up time where you should be going out with friends and doing all that teenager stuff? I mean, that's a real kind of big decision there.
Yeah, I mean, I did it since from the age of about 11, but I was still going to the workshop when I was a teenager, when I was in my sixth form years. And I did it because I loved it, and that's where I felt happiest. And also being a boys' school, doing drama things, it doesn't necessarily can invite a little bit of teasing and stuff like that, But I just loved it. I didn't care. That's where I was. That was my happy place. Was performing.
Yeah.
And I knew when I got towards the end of my A levels that the goal would be to audition for drama school, and pursue it seriously.
Wow, that's so interesting that you had your passion way back then, and you still get to do it now. So that's nice to hear. So then, was it onto university, specialised drama school, theatre school? What was it after the A levels?
Yeah, it was a drama school called the Guildford School of Acting. I forget what it's called now. There's an organisation that accredits drama schools. I think it's called the BADC. It's probably changed now. But I auditioned for all the London schools as well. I got a place at Lambda. I got a place called Rose Bruford, Webber Douglas, which doesn't exist anymore. I got a recall at RADA, but didn't quite get the place. That's the Oxford and Cambridge of drama schools. But I was happy in Guildford as well because I liked the town. I've never been a massive fan of London itself. I have lived there since I left drama school, but no, I live in it's quite a nice little small town, and that was appealing. And I think if you're going to be somewhere for 3 years, that's something that not everybody takes into account when they're picking higher education places, because you think, oh well, they've got this facilities, they've got this reputation for my course. You also need to have a good look around where you're going to be for 3, 4, depending what course you do, years. So yeah, I did fall in love with Guildford, fell in love with the drama school, and that's where I went when I was 19.
That's a really interesting point you make about the universities, because a lot of focus is on the quality of the lectures, the employability afterwards, the social side and all the clubs and societies, which are important, please don't get me wrong, but you are also living there, and you're going to spend a lot more time in your flat, in your house, in your halls than you are in a lecture hall, and it's important for students to kind of realise that. So I mean, our paths crossed late, like 2009, 10, 11. We were talking the other day briefly about when that was. So what were you doing when our paths crossed then? That was Cragrats, I believe, was the name of it. Is that right?
Yes.
Was that your thing? Was that your business, or were you working for them? Or
no, not my business. So yeah, I'll give some context. I left drama school, graduated from drama school in 2005, and I didn't have a whirlwind start to my career. I did all right. I did some decent jobs, and then somebody asked if I wanted to come and do some education work. And I said, right, I haven't been inside a school since I left school, 6, 7 years ago. And they explained that it was careers and employability skills, which I had no idea about. I went and was trained, did 2 days training. And then I'll always remember, I can't remember the name of it, but it was a school in Kidderminster. And the guy who was leading the day for Cragrats said, well, there's your classroom, crack on. And I was like, what? Right. All right, okay. Open the door, 30 year 9 or 30 year 10s or something like that. That
sounds like how they introduce some new teachers as well, just like, hey, you have to go.
Yeah. Well, it's sink or swim, isn't it? And it definitely did feel like that.
Wow.
And then I realised that I was actually quite good at talking to a classroom, because I think there's so many parallels between performing and teaching. As the teacher, essentially, you've got to hold the focus of that room. You've got to feel the room. Are they losing interest? Are they losing focus? Do I need to move on to new material? kind of like a stand-up comic in a way, isn't it? You've got to really feel how your audience is receiving things. So I realized that I could do it. My performance career has run parallel, if you like, to my education career.
Yeah, that's fascinating to hear, you know, the things that you gave back. And, you know, you obviously went into a lot of schools and colleges. You came into ours quite a few times. I remember having lunch in staff rooms and things with you, and you gave it everything you had on those days when you were in. And it was great to watch and think, oh, yeah. And the parallels you made there between acting and teaching. Me and my colleague were literally talking about that this morning, how you have to...
Yeah.
It's very draining job, just like yours is, because you are, to a certain extent, pretending. Yeah, there's a certain amount of being natural as well, but you are entertaining, and we're educating, and we are like, we've got 25 kids, and some of them don't want to be here, and oh my gosh, you know, and it's fascinating to hear you say that.
The most wonderful academic who, you know, is qualified to the hilt, but would probably freeze in front in a classroom and doesn't have those communication skills, if you like. I suppose it's a bit like doctors, isn't it? When they criticize doctors' bedside manner, you can have the doctor who is a genius clinically, probably makes all these patients cry or something. You know?
That's right. Yeah. No, it's really, really fascinating to see you've got to mesh those skills together. And now I was having a look through, doing my research, having a look through your kind of biography pages and things, and seeing all the businesses you've worked with, and all over Europe as well. Is that right? Or some of the ones I saw, like in Central Europe and things like that. Have you travelled around Europe then as part of your job, or were they filmed in the UK for those businesses? Or
yeah, all of the travel has been through commercials. When I left drama school, I realised that I had a bit of a niche in getting adverts. I think people have told me that's because I have a very middle of the road Joe Bloggs kind of look. And you know, that's what they're looking for in commercials, because they're trying to advertise their products to the everyman, if you like. So yeah, that's where I've got to travel a little bit, which has been great. One thing that pops up every year around November, December, January time is that if there's British commercials that need outdoor scenes, you don't get a lot of daylight at that time of year in the UK. So a lot of commercials tend to head to the Southern Hemisphere at that time of year. So you get a lot of commercial breakdowns coming through for South Africa. And I've never been to South Africa, but the coolest place I've been with the commercial was Argentina, Buenos Aires, which was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, it sounds absolutely brilliant. So okay, let's talk about this glamorous world of commercials and acting that you do. You know, obviously there's the perception of how glamorous it is, the lights, the makeup, the hair, the on set, the action, the pressure and the traveling and things. So it's all really, really glamorous and amazing. Is that right?
If you make it into the top 0.1% of actors, you know, like Hollywood A-list kind of people, then maybe it is super glamorous. But what people need to remember about it is how unstable it is. And sometimes you don't know where your next job's coming from. You're constantly interviewing, if you like. You know, if you're in a 9-to-5 job or something like that, you've got that job security, and you know, well, I can be here for X amount of years as long as I want, really, and climb that ladder. But with performance, with acting, the job finishes and then you've got to find another one. So you're constantly auditioning and interviewing. A lot of people do give up quite early after drama school because they realise, you know what, I can't deal with this instability. And just linking in our previous conversation, that's kind of why I was very, very lucky to have found my education work, because that provided me with a little bit of stability. People in the industry say, oh, you should never have a plan B. Go and wait tables or something like that, because you'll always fall back on your plan B because it will be more secure. Well, I said, no, I just want to have something that, first of all, I enjoy, and I love the teaching stuff that I do. Pays me all right. And also something that's flexible that you can put aside when acting work does come along. So I was lucky to mesh the two. And that's what I've carried on doing, which is, you know, being able to mesh through. So no, back to your original question, it's not all glamour.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. When you go to an audition, you don't even get a no if you don't get the job. That's just industry standard. You just get silence. You don't hear anything.
Wow.
Which at first feels really rude.
Yeah.
But you just get used to it. And then if you do get a job and you end up on set, yes, it can feel a little bit glamorous because you're getting the makeup and there's runners who are waiting on you hand and foot. That takes a bit of getting used to, because they're like, do you want a cup of tea? Do you want a cup of tea? Would you like a biscuit? Would you do? And you're like, mate, it's okay. I can make my own cup of tea. But then you realise that that's their job and that's what they're getting paid to do that day. And you know, they want you to say, yeah, please, I'll have a cup of tea. Thanks, mate, kind of thing. So yeah, it's glamorous when you've got a job. When you haven't, no, it's not.
Yeah, not so much. Yeah. And with regards to then your jobs, how important is it then to look after your reputation, whether that's in the industry and people you know and making contacts, and also the social media side of things? Obviously you've spent a few years working on Waffle The Wonder Dog for CBeebies, which is great, by the way. You know, my daughter loves it, as you might know. But you know, you've got that, but you've also got your own life. Are you very conscious of your reputation and what you put out there online, and how you act and behave around people?
Online, yes. I think it's important to make a decision what you're going to use your various accounts for. Twitter and Instagram, I try and keep professional, so I'm very careful what I put on there. That's not to say that I won't share family stuff on there. But then Facebook, for example, which is, I like to keep purely mine. I use a pseudonym on Facebook, so that can be me, and it's locked down to the hilt. All the privacy settings are high. I know absolutely everybody that I'm friends with on there, because you know, there's so many horror stories that can go wrong on social media. Not necessarily for even people in the public eye, but you know, I've read loads of things where people have lost jobs just from stuff that they've posted inappropriately.
Yeah, and that's the world we live in now, where people are very open about what they put on social media, which isn't always a fantastic approach, especially for, you know, students who aren't doing it yet, where they're having to worry about employment. But once it's out there, it's out there. I know it's cliche, but it is true, and employers will Google you and they will find things. So you know,
somebody used the phrase once, and I always remember, digital dirt sticks, because it's there around forever. Yeah. So it's digital dirt sticks. So like just remember whatever you're posting on there. I mean, was it the about a month or two ago, wasn't it, the cricketer who they dug up some tweets from 10 years ago?
Yeah.
So that's a case in point, you know. Just think about what you're putting on there, because it's never too late to come back and haunt you.
Yeah. God, what a world we live in. What a world. So, you know, working on your reputation, I mean, obviously, Waffle The Wonder Dog. What years did you work on Waffle then? And were you still doing your education things at that time? Or was that something that I've got to do this full time? I mean, what was your kind of like work schedule and things with that?
So Waffle was filmed 17, 18, 19.
Yeah.
So the years 17, 18, 19. And it was pretty full on. There were a few months in each year where we weren't filming, but I did go back and do a bit of education work, but also the intensity of a filming schedule. The days are 7 till 7 every single day. So I was probably not going full on the gas with the education work that I usually would, just because of the intensity of the filming. But no, I kept my hand in, especially with the schools that employ me individually, independently from other organisations. So I mainly focused on those schools.
And working on Waffle then, I mean, you've obviously made quite an impact on a lot of people. It's been watched by a lot of people. You know, we spoke to my daughter briefly before this, as well as getting paid for it, which is nice. Do you feel like proud that you kind of gave back a little bit? I mean, you've got that on your CV, and that you were kind of contributing to children's well-being and mental health.
Yeah, especially, and you did. Over the past 18 months, you know, I've had so many lovely messages on social media of people saying, oh, my kids love Waffle, it's got them through some tough times and stuff like that. So that probably made me realise actually more how important it was. And I think it's good to, yeah, not just to entertain kids. There were other layers to the show in the fact that we're a blended family, i.e. that we both bring a child to the family. So it's a step family, if you like. And of course, a lot of young people are living that experience. So to see that reflected on screen was something that the production company really wanted to do, and they were really quite proud of, because you don't want to see the typical, 2.4 children, everything's nice and happy.
Yeah. It certainly felt like something that a lot of kids who previously would have had nothing to relate to, where they turn on the telly or open a book or anything, and they go, wait a minute, that looks a bit like my family. That was quite refreshing to see. So thank you for all the hard work you did on that. It's great. What about your business then now? So you're still running your own business at the moment, aren't you? The Time to Act. So what is the business you're running now? Is it similar to the education thing you used to be involved in, or have you put your own spin on it?
So me and my other half, Claire, we decided to bring all the activities that we did for other people, essentially, under one umbrella and offer to do it ourselves. We, as actors, you're always self-employed, so you kind of always have that entrepreneurial nag in the back of your mind, if you like, and think, well, I can do this myself. Why aren't I doing this myself? So we set it up, and the main arms to it are that we do one-to-one drama coaching. So that's for kids who want to go to drama school. Lambda qualifications, which is something that you can take to boost your UCAS points and stuff like that. So people who are talented can do Lambda qualifications. We coach that. We do in-school drama workshops. So whether that's Shakespeare or musical theatre, whatever the school requires. The Shakespeare workshop, for example, focuses more on the English literature side of stuff. So we'll pick a text that a year group maybe are studying for GCSE or A-level and approach it as actors, not as academics sitting at a desk, because that's what he wrote it for. He didn't write it for academic study. He wrote it to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And to entertain people on stage. And then we started moving into the careers and employability skills as well, because we realized that so much of interview skills, career planning, goal setting, CV writing comes very naturally to actors anyway. So yeah, it probably needs more focus. I'm not a natural business person. We've got all these different arms that I try and explain on the website. But no, it does okay, and we're quite proud of it.
Yeah. And running your own business then, I mean, you said that you're self-employed as an actor anyway, and you're getting the work as you go through your career. Running your own organisation then with your partner, are you, in terms of the challenges of doing that, obviously we've got COVID going on, do you feel pressure and stress from that, or are you okay with what you're doing? Do you ever feel like, oh my gosh, this has to work, this is all our eggs in one basket? Do you feel like the challenges of running your own business is a bit like that?
It can get stressful. It can, especially during COVID, when we've been homeschooling. We've got an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old, and some days you can't actually get any work done until 7 o'clock in the evening. And that kind of protocol of sending emails in the evening went right out the window.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, oh well, I don't care. I'll send an email at midnight now. If you've got the sound on your phone at midnight, that's your lookout. Sorry, you're getting an email. So yeah, it was kind of 24-hour working at times. In terms of eggs in one basket and putting that pressure on everything, I suppose I always had the other stuff that I do, the performance work and things like that. When people are starting their own business, they do, sometimes people work, what do they say, 5 to 9? So you've got your job, you guaranteed job that pays you 9 to 5, and then you start to grow your business slowly, working 5 to 9. Yeah. So yeah, I would say if you can do that to provide yourself with that security, so you can pay your bills, then yes, start slowly. Don't take that massive leap where it's do or die.
Yeah.
Some people, like I was just saying about acting, people say, oh, if you've got a plan B, you'll fall back on your plan B. No, you won't. Just take it slowly. Build it up slowly and see where you are. That would be my business advice.
Awesome. That's some nice advice right there. And the benefits for it then, are you able to work a bit more flexibly around your children and their schooling hours and their holidays and things like that? Is that one of the benefits of it? And are you feeling any other benefits of running your own business? The sense of pride that you're helping people, for example?
Yeah, I think flexibility that comes from self-employment is the payoff that you get for the insecurity and the instability and not knowing where your next paycheck's coming from. Flexibility of being self-employed is wonderful. You know, the fact that you don't have to go and do your Sainsbury's shop at 12 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon with the world and his wife. You know, Sainsbury's at 11:30 on a Monday morning is a joy to behold. So yeah, you do get that flexibility. Yeah, and you also get that reward that you feel like I'm not just working for somebody. I've done this. I've made this day happen, and you get some lovely feedback from a school. And now, of course, schools do impact reports afterwards where they actually asked for the students' feedback, and you get to see that feedback and stuff like that. And that is a lovely, warm feeling when you feel like you've actually had an impact on some young people. Yes.
That's great. And well, thanks for giving back to the young people who need this extra help and support in their careers. It's great. And talking then about the young people who are going into the industry and your industry that you've been in for many years now, the acting and the theatre side and commercials or television shows, what do you see as being next for your industry? Because we've heard a lot of doom and gloom that nobody will ever get employed again, that everything's shutting down, and that the creative arts are, well, they have been defunded a lot. That's another podcast for another day. Is it as doom and gloom as we say, or what do you think is coming next for your industry?
I think you can separate it into the different elements of the industry. So obviously theatre has really taken the hit. The theatres still aren't open. You know, I was listening to Lloyd Webber on the radio the other day, and there's a lot of anger at the moment in the theatre industry because they're looking at sports stadiums and things like that. And you know, they closed the roof at Wimbledon last night for the Andy Murray match, and they were saying, well, what's the difference there? Whereas, you know, that's a theatre. Everyone's sitting side by side. There has been, who's the culture secretary? Dowden, Oliver Dowden. He managed to fight and get 2 billion put aside for the creative industries. I think theatre will bounce back, certainly. Television was carrying on last year in very, very controlled environments. I think they've learned to adapt now and become totally COVID safe. Commercials died off. You probably saw the commercials that were out last year. A lot of it was filmed on Zoom and stuff like that, home film.
Yes, and I know some American companies, because I watch a lot of American football, and they were doing, look at our classic adverts, vote for your favorite classic advert and things like that, because they just couldn't make any new ones. So they were just rehashing all the old ones, but giving like spins on it, which is really interesting to see. And then you go, oh, that's because you actually can't make any new adverts. You know?
Yeah, it wasn't always just because they couldn't be, but because of the extra expense of making it COVID safe. And secondly, remember their businesses themselves, and they were so headspun and like, well, is our business going to survive? I'm certainly not going to put X amount of money into an advert. And I was talking to my agent 2 weeks ago, and he said that he thinks commercials will have a bit of a boom time because certain industries will try and advertise themselves out of the pandemic. Obviously, they don't spend that kind of amount of money on adverts without seeing a return from them, and advertising really does work. So yeah, hopefully you'll see my mug a bit more over the next few years.
Fingers crossed. We'll keep our eyes and our ears open and be like, oh, he said he'd be back. Yeah, big God will point at you on the telly. And, yeah, confuse my daughter, like, what's he doing on there? So as we kind of get towards the end here, then we're talking about your industry. I mean, what's next for you then? Are you just going to be hoping that the jobs are coming and pushing your own business? Have you got anything in the pipeline you're allowed to talk about? What's next for James?
So I've been getting back physically in schools over the past few weeks, which has been an absolute joy. Okay. We did do some workshops on Zoom and stuff like that, and they're just not as good. You can't fill the room. You can't deliver as you want to deliver.
Yeah.
So hopefully they will continue in September, because they're starting to crank up again. So getting back into education, and I'm quite fortunate. Off the back of Waffle, I'm doing my hometown panto this year. So at the Yvonne Arno Theatre in Guildford, we're doing Dick Whittington. So I've got a contract to do panto this Christmas, which financially and security-wise means that the winter is looking really good and nice and secure.
Good old-fashioned panto. Oh, that's for life, isn't it? Yeah, I remember those. That's brilliant. So, well, I will keep everything I've got crossed that, we're at the stage where you can get on stage and do your thing. So that's really exciting for you. Let me throw one last question at you then, James, as we start to wrap this up at the 30-minute or so mark here.
Sure.
If you could go back to when you were 17 or 18 and give 17, 18-year-old James a bit of advice that you wish he took on, maybe as a mantra, or you wish somebody had told you something, or you actually had advice then and you took it on, what would that advice be?
I think as I've got older, the one thing that I have developed is losing that fear of people saying no. When you're young, whether it's a job rejection or somebody not taking on your idea or something like that, it can hurt a little bit, and you think, oh, well, maybe I'm not good enough, and you lose that confidence. It's hard, but try and build up that confidence as early as you can, to knock on doors and say, look, can you help me? You work in this industry, and I'm only 17. I just wondered, can we have a quick chat, or can you give me any advice? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? They're going to say, no, sorry, I'm too busy. All right, that's no skin off your nose. You go and ask the next person.
Exactly.
So it's that confidence that you don't have as a teenager, because you're constantly worried about rejection. You're constantly worried about somebody saying no. But when I see people who are very successful at a very young age, they're those weird people who don't have that. I read about Mark Zuckerberg, the Facebook, from a young age, he was constantly knocking on doors, not afraid of anything. And they're in the minority. That's why I call them weird, because they're in the minority. Yeah. But it's something you can work at, and the more knockbacks you get, the less they hurt. That's not so. Yeah, just that'd be my one piece of advice: knock on doors, go to interviews, go to auditions, everything that you can go to, because it will constantly build your confidence. I always describe confidence as like a muscle. Mm-hmm. Just like you go down the gym, you work out, your muscles get bigger. Well, they sometimes they do. Doesn't work for me.
I can edit it.
And the more you, the more you work, the more you work out that confidence muscle, the bigger your confidence gets.
Yeah, I remember you using that analogy in college when you came in and thinking, oh, that works. Yeah, and you're saying it now, like 10, 11 years later, you go, oh yeah, it's still true, because it's such a straightforward but great analogy for practice. You do have nothing to lose on the most part, and just see how you go on. So thank you very much for that little bit of advice there at the end. Really appreciate it, and thanks for everything else that you've shared with us on this episode. Really do appreciate the time that you've given up on an evening here, and if you don't mind staying on.
Pleasure, Danny.
Oh, brilliant! And if you don't mind staying on just for a moment or two, we'll say a proper cheerio. But for now, I'll just say thanks very much, and thanks for all your hard work in what you're doing for schools and education and children. It's appreciated by many of us all over the place who you come into contact with. So, and thank you very much, and we'll see you again.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you, James, for sharing your career insights there. Absolutely fascinating journey through the world of acting, and thank you for everything that you're doing to give back to everybody through your career as well. So thank you, James, really appreciate it. And to everybody else watching and listening, thank you to you too. You can like, share, rate, review, subscribe, and do all those good things. I really appreciate it. And you can say hello on all your social media channels if you have a look for Pardo's Business. And until next time on Talking Business with Danny Pardo, I'll just say cheerio.